The princess casually picked up a portrait while selecting her husband, only to accidentally choose her childhood nemesis. The emperor knew the two of them had never gotten along, so he let the princess choose again, urging her to marry the prince she had always liked. But the princess insisted on choosing this nemesis. It turned out the princess had married the prince in her past life, but just 1 year after the wedding the prince died in a fire. The princess was heartbroken for 3 whole years, visiting the temple every day to pray for her deceased husband, until that day she ran into the prince at the temple, with another woman standing beside him. The princess rushed forward like a madwoman demanding answers, but the prince shoved her down and she hit the corner of a table. Before dying she swore that if there was a next life, she would never have anything to do with this scumbag again. Unexpectedly in the next second, she was actually reborn on the day of choosing her husband, and just happened to select her own nemesis, so she rejected her father's suggestion, insisting on choosing her nemesis as her consort, because the princess discovered that the days of bickering with her nemesis were actually much warmer than being with the scumbag. Since heaven gave her a chance to start over, she definitely wouldn't choose the wrong person this time. After the selection ended, the princess had just walked out of the hall. When the princes outside were all guessing she had chosen the scumbag, at that moment the scumbag suddenly knelt before her, saying he already had a scheming woman in his heart, begging the princess to stop pestering him. The princess immediately understood that the scumbag had been reborn too. The princess originally wanted to directly state she hadn't chosen him, but suddenly thought of a brilliant idea, so she announced she would reveal the consort's identity on the wedding day, telling the scumbag to open his eyes wide and see clearly then. But just as the princess was about to leave, the scheming woman deliberately bumped into her. The scumbag quickly helped the scheming woman up, and instead accused the princess of forcing her to kneel. The princess only felt her heart grow cold, remembering how in her past life she had given everything for the scumbag, yet never received even a bit of his care. But now he was extremely protective of the scheming woman. Even worse was when the scumbag picked up the scheming woman. He deliberately used the scheming woman's leg to trip the princess. The nemesis saw the scene and urgently rushed over to help her up. The princess hadn't expected her usually frivolous nemesis to be so anxious when seeing her injured, while the scumbag only cared about looking after the scheming woman. So after the princess woke up, she immediately had someone pack up the gifts the scumbag had sent. Those things she had once treasured like precious items were all packed up and prepared to be returned to the scumbag, who knew that upon meeting the scumbag was being presumptuous again, repeatedly emphasizing he only liked the scheming woman, wanting the princess to choose a new consort. The princess couldn't be bothered to waste words with him, dropped off the items and prepared to leave. Just then the scheming woman suddenly coughed up blood. The scumbag hurriedly found the imperial physician to treat her. The physician said this was a rare poison, and could only be cured using the blood of the poisoner as a catalyst. Without a second thought, the scumbag determined the princess was the poisoner, wouldn't listen to the princess's explanations at all, and directly had someone hold the princess down. Looking at the scheming woman's pitiful appearance, the scumbag took a knife and cut open the princess's arm. The frail princess immediately fainted on the spot. 5 days later the emperor organized a hunt, specifically instructing the princes to take good care of the newly recovered princess, who knew that assassins suddenly appeared along the way. The scumbag didn't hesitate to escape with the scheming woman, leaving the princess alone in danger. Fortunately, the nemesis intervened in time to save her, jumping off a cliff with her to preserve their lives. The next day the nemesis brought over desserts the princess loved. The princess suddenly remembered her past life, how the nemesis would bring her gifts every time he went out. Only back then she only had the scumbag in her heart, completely failing to notice this thoughtfulness. So she made up her mind that in this life she absolutely wouldn't let the nemesis down. The night before the wedding the nemesis suddenly climbed through the window, giving the princess a wedding gift. The princess didn't understand why he was giving her a gift, but the nemesis said he couldn't come to the wedding tomorrow, and immediately jumped out the window after speaking. Little did he know the nemesis was just deliberately avoiding, not wanting to personally witness his beloved princess marrying someone else. The next day the wedding proceeded as scheduled. The princess specially moved countless treasures from the national treasury, all as her own dowry. The nemesis, who hadn't wanted to attend, also appeared at the scene. At this moment the scumbag was still confidently thinking that even if the princess emptied the national treasury, he still wouldn't like her. Just then the eunuch delivered the imperial decree. The princess deliberately handed it to the scumbag to read, but the scumbag said there was no need to read it publicly. He agreed to marry the princess and that was that. But the princess insisted he continue reading. Just as the scumbag began reading, he saw the nemesis's name and was shocked. And the nemesis also assumed the consort must be the scumbag, was sadly preparing to leave, when he heard the scumbag read out his own name.